Welcome to Live with Sensei. I'm your host, Jay Haynes, for the Film Sensei YouTube channel. In this fourth episode of our inaugural live streaming season, we are talking tonight about camera tracking in HitFilm Pro. Before we begin, I'm delighted to say this live stream is being brought to you by StreamYard. StreamYard is a super easy way to live stream your content. Check them out. There is a link in the description below. I want to give a few shout outs to people who are in the house. Hopefully, you guys are still in the house. Let's see here. Bill with Coast to Coast Drones. Great to have you, sir. Parified. Yeah, I'm exited. I hope you didn't exit. I hope you're excited, and I hope you're here. Still, Vazio, what's up? What's up? What's up? And Mike Miller, HitFilm University. It's great to have you, sir. Glad you're here. And Courtney is also in the house. Thanks for being here, Courtney. It's great to have you. So leave a comment in the comment section over there, and I will give you a shout out too. Before we jump into the topic for our show, I do want to talk a little bit about HitFilm 13.1, which actually came out today. So if you have not upgraded your version of HitFilm 13, both the Express and the Pro version came out today. Most of it was in integration between HitFilm and Vegas Pro 17. I think they're working closer to the Vegas Post that they're planning on doing. But they did do a few regressive bug fixes. A regressive bug is a bug that appeared after it worked correctly. So say, for example, in version 11, something that you were doing worked just fine, and then version 12 came out and, oh, it's not working anymore. It's doing something wrong, and now they fixed it. So one of the things it was really a pain in the patootie, was adding masks to a layer that had been checked invisible, right? And a lot of times, especially that you're like rotoscoping a lightsaber or something like that, you know, you put the lightsaber on a plane, which is on top, you want to turn that off so that you can see where you're rotoscoping. Well, you can't turn that off now. You had to go in and change the opacity to 0 or something like that. So they have fixed that, which is really, really nice. Also, when you made a text layer three-dimensional means there's an X, Y, and a Z position. Well, the X and the Y position numbers would be there, but the Z position, there was no number. You could still physically move it in your 3D space, but there was no number there to dial it in or no number to move it with. So they have fixed that as well. I think those are some pretty nice fixes. So definitely feel free to download that newest version and check it out, because I think it's pretty good. Wait a minute. Do I have anybody else who's showed up here? Wait, I do. Oh, I do have some people. Hold on. Let me see here. We have is Cretan's Guild? Cretan's Guild. You must be a friend of Frank. And Frank is here somewhere. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me see. Tonight's show, by the way, might go a little bit longer than normal because our topic is kind of extensive, and my special guest is really good at talking as well. And that would be Frank. Frank is the owner of almycgi.net, and also with him is Courtney, who is also in our here in our comment section right here, Mermaid Clover. But Cretan's Guild, it is great to have you, sir. 4K Productions also in the house. Glad you're here. We just started. You haven't missed a thing. Sniflem Films. It is good to have you too, sir. I'm glad that you're here. And so without further ado, I am going to bring in Frank, who is waiting patiently here for me. Let me turn that off, and let me turn this off. There we are. Frank, how are you?
Hey, pretty good. How is everybody?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And oh, wait a minute. HitFilm University has an important thing. If Mike speaks, everybody listens. Another important update is choosing studio and computer levels. Oh, yeah, this is for the coloring. This is the coloring part of it. And I'll be honest with you, Mike, I had no idea what the heck they were talking about, so I didn't mention it. But it sounded really important. So it's important in detailing, dealing with the levels of shifts in Vegas integration, but it is a nice update. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So Frank is going to talk about the Foundry. Are you going to talk about the Foundry Camera Tracker, the Blender Camera Tracker, or a little bit of both?
Whichever you like.
Okay. Well, we can talk about the Foundry. We can talk about whatever you like because you are the expert. Frank really knows his stuff when it comes to this. So we will, without further ado, let him sort of take it away. And what I will do is kind of monitor the comments and jump in with any questions that people might have. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump right in and just type them in the comment section, and I would be delighted to pass them on to Frank so he can see it. Are you ready, Frank?
Yeah, whenever you are.
All right. Why don't you set your screen up and I'll share it for you.
That's cool. Whenever you're ready.
There is Frank's screen, full screen. So now you're good to go.
All right. So I'm just going to open up Filmer real fast. Sorry, real fast.
And Filmer is your version, rewrite of Blender that integrates Blender into HitFilm in a remarkably easy way.
Yeah, correct. So I'm over in motion tracking real quick. Because this is very similar to what happens in the Foundry when you pick a floor plane. See how most everything is actually on the floor to define the floor?
Yes, and this is drone footage.
Yeah, from
Bill over at Coast to Coast Drones.
Flying Banana?
Flying Banana. And, okay, cool, Flying Banana.
78. I always forget the 78.
Flying Banana 78, he's on the forums.
Yeah, he let me borrow this.
Wonderful.
But I'm gonna come back to this at some later point, but I'll get distracted if I start talking about other stuff. But see how if you use like the perspective or vanishing point of this pattern right here, see how it kind of goes like that? I use that as, you see how all these little things are at a weird perspective?
Right.
Like they're at a weird angle. Okay, so those are the tracking points. And if we jump over here, see how they're not actually facing up and down?
Sure.
They're at an angle. That's kind of what happens in the Foundry Tracker, because the computer doesn't know it. You know, the tracker doesn't know really what's happening because we selected the floor, so it's level. So that's why everything's there. But then I also rotated it, you know, from the origin point that we all know, that trick that we all know.
Sure.
You see that?
Right. And that you're talking about the trick that I did in my tutorial. Okay. So if you don't know that trick, you want to go and watch my tutorial on the Foundry tracking system. Yeah.
So see how doing that, it changed the way each of these points is facing. It after you do that and then you pick a point and parent something to it, sometimes it gets oriented incorrectly, and it's from the view of the camera. Like, let me just go over here to this one. Instead of going, see this Y axis line? Instead of going back and forward like it should, it's got a weird angle. So whatever you put on there, if it moves, like if it moves forward and back, and it's going to travel along that line instead of.
So why does that happen?
Because we rotated everything.
Oh, okay. So how do we fix it?
Unparent. Do your animation and unparent. And the other thing is, sorry, see, I missed some of these things. See how none of these are actually, everything is not actually directly on the Z-axis?
Oh, yeah.
It's there's imperfections in the ground, all these indentations and road marks and stuff. And in the middle of this path, it's kind of concave.
Hmm.
And the tracking points can pick all that up. But when you try, if you don't know the angle, like if you don't reconstruct the 3D scene, like where to go? Sorry. Like this thing. So, I mean, this is a bad one. I'll show you a really good one in a little bit. Whoops. Sorry. There we go. The really good thing for those points is just so you know where the surface is. So that's the really hard part. How to fix it is to really have a whole bunch of points, like many tracking points, so you know where all the surfaces is. All the surfaces are. Sorry. Does that make any sense? A little bit.
Yes. So, and what Mike is pointing out in the comment section is, he says, again, to expand on Frank's words, the ground isn't flat. It's got all kinds of dips and etc. Since the tracker is measuring points relative to each other, it's rarely perfect. So how did you recreate the landscape? Did you make a plane in Filmer and then warp it or something?
Yeah, well, this is by hand. And let me see, did I actually save anything?
I hope so.
I think it might have been a Vegas project. Let me find out real quick.
And all of these techniques or all these ideas they're the same regardless of where you're using them, whether it's in Blender or Filmer or Vegas or HitFilm.
Yeah, it's pretty much universal. You can do it if you can do it in one program, you can do it in another one.
Right.
Let me see here.
And I see Farrah Films is in the house. Good to have you, sir. While he's pulling this project up.
There it is. Maybe. Oops. Yeah, I picked the wrong. There it is. So this is some other drone footage, and it'll look crazy until I throw the model in there. And I'll show you the reconstruction part, but that's a whole different other process.
Sure.
But I mean, this is it doesn't look like much, but let me go ahead and import the 3D object.
Did you make this 3D object also?
Yeah.
Based on...
Well, the computer does. Honestly, I click buttons and the computer does it for me.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's like adding or subtracting on a calculator, really. I press buttons and the computer does what I want it to.
I see.
This is a big mesh. I haven't. I could import a smaller mesh, but this is a reconstruction from whatchamacallit. Have you ever seen one of the latest CG Geek tutorials where he scans a mountain or something like that with a drone?
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Yeah. Okay. So instead of just that, it's really bad footage.
Right.
So it's not as good as I would like it, and it's holes. But this is practice anyway. The whole thing is a learning process. But anyway, yeah, this is what I got, and
that's based on all the points that the tracking, element found, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So that's
really cool.
this came from. So I did the same process, except it's a scan, but also a motion track at the same time. So I get the motion track for free, and the 3D geometry,
right,
and the texturing. So that stuff just happens. So if I just drop it in here, but I got to scale it down because it's really big. Uh, and I'll import the footage that it came from here in a second.
Okay.
But this is kind of what it looks like.
Wow, cool.
And I still have to clean it up. Obviously, there's pieces of a sky floating around up there. But it's like kind of explaining why you need to know where the 3D surface is of whatever you're tracking or whatever, so you can animate on it, because nothing is ever really exactly flat. So I think most people their motion tracks are probably actually okay. It's just that after they kind of maybe fix or rotate something, they lose where the plane actually is of the surface.
Uh-huh. So what you're saying is that a lot of times by fixing it, you're actually messing it up.
By adding extra steps?
Yeah.
A little bit, because right from the get-go, from the camera tracker's perspective in HitFilm, or like say the Foundry or whatever, from the initial track that it gave you, it's perfect, and it wants you to use that.
Okay.
But you can't always really do that because you don't have a floor plane, and it's really hard on the eyes. You don't see a grid, so it makes it really difficult to animate that way. But initially, it has the correct animation and everything.
So, but if I were to like go and find a point that I wanted a point on the, on that it found on my, in my track, or on my, say I did one on my lawn or something, and I wanted to put my 3D model there, couldn't I just say, okay, that's the center of my universe, and that's where I want to be at 0, 0, 0, and just parent everything to that and move it all? Isn't that okay to do that?
Yeah.
And then just make sure that it's flat.
Yeah.
And then put my model. But I understand that if I move my model off that point a little bit, then it could be off because the plane, the angle may not be with the actual ground plane that I've defined or that I have.
Yeah. Okay. Here, see, look at this widget. So maybe this will help too of why that happens. Let's see, X rotation. Like if you rotate from this interface over here, well, let me go to side view.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But if you do it in here, in the 3D view, if you rotate in here, it's in local space. In this case, it doesn't matter because it's, in this case, it just doesn't matter.
But
it's just a static background.
Sure, but if you're using if you're rotating on one point, then something further away could really get skewed off.
Yeah, so it's something like this kind of helps. I mean, 3D points themselves are okay because at least then you'll know where everything is. And this is just a test. It's not saying that everyone has to do this, but having as many 3D points as you can to represent like that small plane, and then you'll be okay. It should be good.
In the Foundry, you have the option to like increase the number of points it looks for.
Yeah.
But that'll slow things way down. But you're saying that's probably a good idea, especially if you're having trouble getting a good track.
Yeah. Every time I do that, like it takes a lot longer for me, but in the Foundry tracker, when I add way more points, the camera already comes in, above the y-axis, like already lined up. And
right.
I see a lot of people, most times it comes in underneath and sometimes, on the opposite side, kind of inverted.
Right. And that's what happens to me. Sometimes I will do the track and then I'll look at it in my 3D space, and the camera is underneath the ground plane and upside down. It's like everything got flipped over.
Yeah.
And so I flip it back over thinking that should be not a bad thing to do, but maybe that is a bad thing to do.
No.
I can do that? And,
Yeah,
and as long as I don't mess around with all the relative, positions of everything, I should be okay.
yeah. As long if you have enough points, like if there's like a slant or an angle to a surface, and your object has to travel across it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just know that that's where it should be, so you can put a plane there and to catch shadows and stuff. But
Right.
it's a little bit more difficult when you get out into nature. Like urban stuff city stuff is more easy.
Yeah. Well, and I, because you and I started talking to the folks over on Bill's channel, Coast to Coast Drone, with Banana 78 and those guys, and said, would be really fun to mess around with this and make a, like Star Wars dogfight scene using drone footage.
Yeah.
And so, they gave us some practice footage to use, which I then went out and played with and quickly got in over my head and was like, oh my gosh, this is really a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But now I know why, because, like you said, everything in nature, there are no straight lines in nature. It's all, it's all, there's always curves and undulations and bumps and things like that. So that makes perfect sense. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. I used to do a lot of spelunking, and we used to say there are no straight lines in caves. So
Cool.
if you see a straight line in a cave, you're not in a cave anymore, kind of a thing. So are
you Bruce Wayne? Karate, martial arts, you go spelunking.
Yeah, that was my wife, actually. She got me into that. We had a guy on the forums ask about how much should he mask out, because he had a shot of his table, but there were some trees in the background that the leaves were blowing around on. How important is it to mask out moving things in your shot?
I've never had to. So I honestly, that's wrong question for me, because I've never had to do that. I've never had to mask around anything.
Really? Because see, I had
for motion tracking, it is.
I did a shot with in my tutorial, in fact, with a chicken walking by, and I found that if I didn't mask out that stupid chicken walking by, it would mess up my track, because the Foundry thought that was a static object in the shot, and so it was making the camera move in a funky way. And I finally said, I just need to mask this chicken out. And when the chicken left and was no longer, being tracked by the Foundry, then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, no, this is how the camera works. And then it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
So I figured it was kind of important that if you had anything that was moving a lot or moving, somewhere else from here to there in a shot, it's probably a good idea to get that chicken out of there.
Yeah.
Right. So in HitFilm, you don't have the opportunity to make, undulating models and stuff. So are we kind of stuck? I mean, we don't really have an option to do that kind of thing in HitFilm. We better stick with urban environments.
I'm not going to say no, because we know there's a way to do it. There's always a way to do it. Just hasn't been done yet. We could probably code something like turn the 3D, like a 3D scan into 2D planes and import all that, because then we could do camera projection, but it would be very expensive, because 2.5D planes in HitFilm are very heavy.
Yeah, they take a lot of resources.
But it would be kind of cool, though, to have something because what you can do with those is camera project from a HitFilm camera. So that'd be kind of cool in a certain way.
So can I make a confession?
Yeah.
So I have never been able to wrap my head around camera projection. And I have watched the tutorials from Axel, and I think Mike Miller did a tutorial on that used that. I know he did. And I watch it and I just sit there like, man, am I like 6 years old and sitting here in a calculus class or something? Because it's like so totally, I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it at all. And nobody has explained it in a way where I go, oh my gosh, of course, you know? So that's something I need to learn. And I just haven't found the right tutorial that turns the light bulb on for me.
I gotcha.
Maybe you should do a tutorial like that.
Camera, I could explain it really quick.
Okay, do that. That'd be great.
Well, okay. General. Did I save that? Doesn't matter.
I hope.
New general.
4K says that sounds like me and tracking in general. When Mike says he hasn't actually done a projector tutorial, but some of my footage was used in Simon's tutorial. Simon did one, and I think maybe it was Simon's tutorial. I think it was Simon's tutorial. It was the one where he was on the grass field and stuff, and he was there. Vazio has a question. Can you rotoscope in HitFilm?
Me?
Yeah, I think you can rotoscope in HitFilm. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of
type of rotoscoping. You can use Mocha to do the rotoscoping one. Oh, and then Mike says Javert did a tutorial on planar tracking as well, or not planar tracking, on the projection as well.
Yes.
All right, so you got it up here. Where are we looking at?
All right. So pretend you got some footage or a picture. Yeah, it's better with some footage, I guess, if you can pretend.
Okay.
And maybe I'll do that. And pretend it's a movie screen. It's projecting the movie onto that screen.
Right.
But the camera is moving or whatever.
Okay.
So let's is this animated? Let me make sure it's not animated. No, it's good. Is it animated? Yeah, there it goes. Okay. So most times you get a view or whatever. This is a bad example.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot. I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm just kidding. Keep going.
Yeah. So, okay. So at this frame, it's kind of like, say you make a copy of the camera. Whoops. Maybe not. Let me actually, yeah, sorry. Let me not confuse myself. Shift D. Unparent it. Let's see if that works. Did it work? Oh, it moved. Oh, well.
There it is over there.
Yeah, my bad. So let's pretend it's still back over here.
Okay.
Let's just pretend.
That sounds good.
In this happy little world. Oh.
Let's pretend like it's exactly on the other camera, right?
Yeah. So this camera is also projecting the footage at that frame.
Uh-huh.
We always leave it there so it's not animated, but the other one is.
Okay.
And this one projects the still frame. And to that still frame, you can do anything you want. You can mask it out, add elements behind it, do pretty much anything.
Right.
Because 2.5D stuff, projection. Ooh, camera projection. Yeah. Oh, because that's what we're talking about. Duh.
Right. Right.
But that's a bad. I think that this was probably a bad explanation.
All right. Well, let's see here. Greg is in the house. Gray Motion.
Gray Motion.
Yep. Good to have you, sir. I like Bill says my bulb is kind of frosty. Maybe it's one too many Grateful Dead shows. Maybe so, but I think my bulb is getting frosty too because, like I said, I really struggle with that particular concept in HitFilm. But I will get it. I just keep working at it. And Mike is talking about Mocha you know, just search for rotoscoping tutorial and HitFilm, and you'll get several, you know, masking mocha type, you know, tutorials to be able to use. So he says, bottom line, roto is tracing frame by frame with a mask. It's boring and tedious, but roto can be done in any program, etc. and so on, right? Yeah, I do it with lightsabers all the time. So
yeah, I think rotoscoping it's the same as writing. It's the same as drawing a stick figure, doing a beautiful portrait. It's rotoscoping. It's doing something by hand.
yeah, takes a long time. And it's really boring unless you're doing lightsabers. It's not boring. And then if it's lightsabers,
Yeah, lightsabers.
I love
oh
lightsabers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to rotoscope lightsabers, but so
any other stuff about the Foundry Camera Tracker thing?
Yeah,
I think that's
any questions from the peanut gallery here about any? Oh, and I'm back. Hold on. My camera just cut out there for a second. So let's see. Mike says, also, I have a mini tutorial on my other channel that would actually explain projection because it's manually projecting a plane, but I can't post links here. Hang on. Where's Mike? Mike? Boom. All right, Mike, I made you a moderator. You can post that link. There we go. And Greg says, stop showing the tools unless you're going to release them.
You've got it, but I'm going to tease him a little bit more right now, if you don't mind.
More. All right, here is the link. Mike has posted the link, and as soon as it comes up, he says, if you look on my Triumph 23 page, you'll be able to find it. And then he posted the link, and here it is. So anybody who wants that, you can jump out there and take a look at that tutorial. And if it was me, I would go ahead and subscribe to both the HitFilm University and the Triumph 23 channel, both. So, and Greg says, laughed out loud there. Thanks a lot. Or actually, Bill said, laughed out loud on that one. Thanks a lot. Mike says, so that link, what I'm doing there is undistorting an image, mapping into a plane, and then moving the plane in 3D space. That is actually what projection is doing without the manual tweaks. And that's the one I was talking about. That's the one I was thinking of when I said that you had done a tutorial on that. So maybe it wasn't on that, but it was definitely on, on projection there. So I'm going to learn it. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you'll get it.
Any other questions before we wrap it up tonight for the expert, Frank, on tracking, camera tracking in any software, whether it's HitFilm or Blender, Filmer, whatever. Before we wrap it up, I do want to say thanks to Frank for being here and walking us through some of this stuff. That certainly makes a lot more sense in terms of why you don't want to mess with that too much when you're, after you've made your track, because the track is actually probably pretty good.
Yep. But I will say, take the hit to the jaw and give it more tracking points, the Foundry Camera Tracker, and it'll just do a really good job for you.
All right, I have another question. This is from, oh wait, it didn't quite show up yet on my thing here. Oh yeah, here it is. What would be the best tracker to use for lightsabers in a stop motion duel? I know what my answer is. What would yours be?
Tracker?
Yeah, I would say do it by hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never tried to do that automatically. I always just do it by hand because dude, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
I would do it by hand. And what you'd put it on a separate plane, and you would either track it using the HitFilm 2 auto light sword effect, or if you really were industrious, you could use the 4-point, or you could even create a whole mask on the plane and move the mask. But really, HitFilm's 2-point auto light sword effect is like the greatest thing ever to be provided for people like me who do lightsaber videos.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. Sniflem Film says, I just subbed to HitFilm University. Good for you. Everybody should do that. Mike brings up a good point. Motion blur will kill the tracker. So
Yeah.
that's a big reason why, you have to really do it by hand for a lightsaber. Well, motion blur can kill a lot of tracks, which is why I think the drone footage I had such a problem with, because of the motion blur.
I didn't see that footage.
I was trying to track something that was really going super fast, and there was a lot of motion blur. So, that would be here's a very big compliment for you. Mike says, Frank is probably the leading expert on the planet in integrating 3D and HitFilm, either him or Tony C. If you're in the same sentence with Tony C, that's it. You have arrived, my friend. You have arrived. Tony C is a god among men when it comes to VFX. He is unbelievable. So you, sir, have arrived.
There's no way. I've never spoken to a man named Tony C. You're insane.
And that is Courtney in the background, for people who don't know who the heck has just joined us here. And she's on Frank's end.
Random celebrity guest.
Random celebrity mermaid in the house. And NX Visual Studio on YouTube, that would be Tony C's channel. So if you want to see some really amazing and fantastic stuff,
Gargantua.
He is the guy. Go and subscribe to his channel. And by the way, he was in the live stream last week. He was in the house, stopped in just to say hi. So it was great to have him here last week.
Gargantua, Tony C. Gargantua.
He's the best. He's the best. Any last minute questions before? Oh, wait. I got that wrong. It's just Tony C. It's just Tony C. That is right. He's right. Just Tony C. In fact, if you want, you can post a link to his channel right here too. Now that you're a moderator. Oh wait, here's Tony. Here's the Tony's Gargantua video. Go check that out. He is amazing. He's a guy that everybody learned from, who I learned from, right? Everybody that I've ever learned from him, kind of a thing. Him and Simon Jones. And there is Tony C's channel, I think. So go check his out. He is really something. And it was great. It was great to have him last week on the chat. Well, I think, let's see, we've been at it for almost 40 minutes. So I think maybe it's time. What do you think? Is it probably time? I think probably so. So I do want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. We appreciate it. We had anywhere running between 12 and 18 people watching, so we really appreciate it. Frank's website is owlmycgi.net. I think I have. Oh no, I don't. I was going to say I think I have a banner of you, but I don't. I lie. I'm lying. owlmycgi.net. He's also on the forums and the what is it? I forget the thread, but it's Filmer. It's the Filmer thread.
Oh yeah, it's over there somewhere.
Yeah, it's called, it says Filmer and How My CGI. And Mike says, go buy Filmer. Yes, definitely go buy Filmer. It is well worth it to be able to combine the benefits of both Blender and HitFilm into the same thing. It's unbelievable. It's fantastic. And the things that you can do, what did Greg say about it? It was so funny. He said, it's like Fuse. Right? Was it Fuse that he said it was?
What is that? Nuke.
Nuke. It's like owning Nuke, but without paying the price.
Yeah.
So here is Frank's thread. Thanks, Mike, for putting that up. You can click on that and put a notification. I have a notification on it. Anytime that Frank posts on that, I immediately go and read what he says. And there it is again. Thanks, Courtney. and Mike also, you know, says it's a labor of love. He's been working on it for years on his own time and his own dime. And so show a little love there would be great. Yeah, for sure. So we really appreciate it. This picture of Frank and Courtney was taken in Greenland. No, it wasn't. Actually, it was taken in a store in 90-degree weather, but it looks like it was taken in Greenland. And I told them, you guys look like you took a trip to somewhere very cold, but they didn't. So it's great to have everybody. I really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat dojo, and same channel. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you later.